But they knew that I was very strongly opposed to abortion. And they knew that I'd been arrested in Atlanta. They, I mean my superiors at the police department. And I was also met with many Christians who cared about me, and they knew, at least some of them knew, that I was 3 months from being vested for my retirement. So for those who may not know what that means, I'd been a police officer for almost 20 years, the last almost 10 years in Las Vegas, 3 months shy of securing my 10 years for my early retirement. So people would tell me, Chet, you just need to be a good steward of what God has told you, provided for you, and told you to, respect that gift and make provision for your family, and don't do something later, but at least wait to be sure you can secure your early retirement. Well, I thought that had to be God. And I said, surely this is you, Lord. I do want to be a good steward of what you've given me. And the Spirit of God, who is appropriately called the Hound of Heaven in a poem by that name, had a conversation. It was clear. It was him speaking to me. And I could imagine that some months later down the road, Chet, he would say to me, some girl will come up to you and say, on that day I had my baby killed. Why weren't you there? And I would have to say, well, I had to get my retirement. And she would say, but I have a dead baby. Well, the Spirit of God used that to answer that question, and I was able to put the retirement aside and determine on that day that I would attempt to intervene. People meant well, but they just didn't understand what the Lord was really doing, not only in my life, but in the life of other rescuers on that day. I tried to get off, but I'd already taken my vacation. I didn't have any time left to try to take the day off. Coward that I was, and knew I was going to be on duty that day when the rescue took place. So that morning, after fasting for 3 days and praying and seeking the Lord and talking to my pastor and explaining to him what I anticipated doing that morning, I rode my motorcycle, my police motorcycle, to work, as I did every day, and went in for the briefing. And my sergeant approached me and said, Chet, now we know you probably know that this anti-abortion demonstration is taking place over in this part of town. I'm going to assign you to a completely different area of town so that you don't have to have any issues. And I didn't say anything to him, but just walked into the briefing room. And while I was sitting there, I thought, yes, this is indeed the Spirit of God this time. Father, you would never, ever want me to have the bad witness of disobeying my superior. To which in a nanosecond came the question, and who is your superior? Chet. See, the people, when they tell this story, it makes it seem like there's just a lot of bravado and I was this man of courage and I had done the right thing and was so determined, and that's just not the truth. I was looking for a way out. The Spirit of God would not, thankfully, He would not, thankfully, let me off the hook. My prayer for all of us is that He does as much for anyone watching this as He did for me in that hour. Because there'll come a time when if we think we have the courage or the bravado or the devotion or whatever it is in ourselves that would carry us through a crisis like this, it has to be the move of the Spirit. So let me finish the story.